The International Space Station floated silently above the Earth, a symbol of cooperation and unity. Inside, 6 astronauts from 5 countries worked in harmony, each representing a piece of humanity's collective ambition. But all of that was about to change. Day 1. Contact lost. It began with a simple message. "Houston, are you reading us? Houston, do you copy?" No response. The radio static buzzed louder than usual, and a sense of unease settled over the crew. They tried again. Silence. Commander Alexei Volkov, the Russian leader of the mission, frowned at the terminal. "Communication is down. Perhaps a solar flare disrupted the signal." The others nodded, though doubt simmered beneath their forced calm. Dr. Mei Chen from China adjusted her headset nervously. "We have backup protocols in place. We can maintain life support and orbit until communications are restored." Still, the quiet lingered in the station, broken only by the hum of machines. The crew carried on with their tasks, but something was different. An invisible tension crept through the station. Day 2, the first incident. By the next morning, things had grown worse. It started with Officer Ramirez, the American engineer, complaining of a headache. At first, no one thought much of it. Headaches were common in space due to fluid shifts. But then his temperature spiked. He was burning up, sweating profusely. His breathing became labored and his eyes bloodshot. Dr. Chen took him to the medical bay, running tests, but nothing seemed to make sense. "It's like he's been infected," she muttered to herself. But by what? Ramirez's condition worsened over the day, his fever rising to dangerous levels. By the evening, he had slipped into unconsciousness. "Could this be something from Earth?" Sergei, the Russian cosmonaut, asked. "Some virus we brought with us?" Dr. Chen shook her head. "He was healthy when we launched. The medical screening would have caught something like this." The crew gathered around Ramirez's limp body. His shallow breathing echoed through the bay, but suddenly it stopped. For a long, agonizing minute, no one moved. Then Ramirez's body jerked violently, his eyes flying open. Only now they were different, glazed, unseeing, filled with rage. He lunged from the medical bed, mouth open, fingers clawing at Dr. Chen's throat. Panic erupted in the small, confined space. Commander Volkov grabbed a nearby tool and bashed it into Ramirez's skull. The engineer collapsed in a heap on the cold metal floor, motionless once more. Dr. Chen gasped, clutching her neck. "What the hell just happened?" Day 3. Suspicion grows. The body of Officer Ramirez was sealed in the airlock. Commander Volkov had ordered it, though tensions between the crew had started to rise. No one wanted to speak of it, but the unspoken fear hung in the air. They were alone, isolated, and something was wrong. What if this spreads? Lina, the Chinese biologist, asked. "We don't know what caused this. Could there be more?" "No one else is sick," said Volkov sharply. "We keep working. Until we hear from Earth, we stick to protocol." But protocol did little to calm their nerves. They all moved cautiously around one another, careful to avoid physical contact. Whispers began to grow, questions that no one dared to speak aloud. Sergei pulled Dr. Chen aside one night. What if this was an attack? What if Ramirez was exposed intentionally? Dr. Chen frowned. "That's absurd. By who?" Sergei's voice dropped to a whisper. "The Americans. They knew something like this could happen. A virus, a biological weapon. What if—" "Stop," Dr. Chen cut him off. her face pale. "We're not at war. This station is about cooperation." But the seed had been planted. Paranoia spread among them like wildfire. Day 4, the turn. As if to confirm their worst fears, Commander Volkov woke with a fever. His once calm and authoritative demeanor now gave way to shivering, sweating, and the same bloodshot eyes that Ramirez had shown. "We have to isolate him," Dr. Chen said, fear creeping into her voice. But Sergei shook his head. "He's the commander. We can't." "He's infected," snapped Lena. "We all saw what happened to Ramirez." It was already too late. As they argued, Volkov convulsed, the same twisted rage taking hold of him. His screams echoed through the station as he clawed at the walls, slamming into anything in his path. Sergei tried to restrain him, but Volkov was too strong, his body acting on some primal, unnatural instinct. This time, it was Lena who made the decision, sealing Volkov in the airlock. Day 5, breaking point. With 2 of their own dead or infected, the remaining crew members turned on each other. Suspicion clouded every interaction. "The Russians brought this," Lena accused. "It's something they were working on, something they weren't supposed to." "And what if it was the Chinese?" Sergei retorted, his voice trembling with rage. "Maybe you and Dr. Chen knew about this the whole time." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her voice tight with frustration. "We're wasting time. We need to figure out what this is. If it's airborne, if it's something in the station, we're all at risk." But no one trusted anyone anymore. On the 6th day, as the remaining crew gathered, exhausted and fearful, a voice suddenly crackled over the radio. "International Space Station. This is Houston. Do you copy?" They froze, staring at the speaker. "This is ISS. We read you," Sergei answered hesitantly. There was a brief pause on the other end before Houston's voice came back, unnervingly calm. "You've been exposed to a classified bioweapon experiment. We were unable to warn you due to a global containment failure. You must not return to Earth under any circumstances." The truth hit them like a blow. They hadn't just lost contact. They'd been left behind, deliberately. Dr. Chen's eyes widened in horror. "They knew," Houston continued, as if reading from a script. "Initiate self-destruct. You are to remain in quarantine. Do not attempt re-entry. Do not." The transmission cut off. Silence filled the station once more. And outside the small porthole, Earth turned, just out of reach.